Ladies and gentlemen, damas y caballeros, mi nombre es Agustin. Mi nombre es Agustin. Welcome to my channel. You know, the other day I was thinking about natural predators of certain animals. Like, for example, the natural predator of a squirrel is a car. And the natural predator of a dog is a bathtub. What's our natural predator, though? What's the natural predator of the human? And I was thinking, well, it's the other human. Humans are the biggest threat against humans. And that's because we humans are constantly trying to find ways to screw over other humans, constantly trying to find ways to get the other human in debt, to buy a big house and accumulate a bunch of stuff. And next thing you know, you're left with no money. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a dog-eat-dog world out there. And if you do not live your life intentionally, and if you do not spend your money intentionally, then the other humans are going to eat you alive, because society sets out things called money traps, which are traps that consume all your money and leave you with no money. Your money just vanishes and you have no idea where it went. So I want to make you a little bit more aware of these traps. And in this video, I want to talk about 10 money traps that keep you poor. But before I begin, some people say smash, some people say click, others simplemente say me gusta el Agustín, me gusta el Agustín chico, este hombre muy interesante chico. All right, so the first money trap is not managing your money intentionally. Ladies and gentlemen, we spend at least 40 hours a week trying to make money. And the second that we get the money, we act like we never even lifted a finger in order to make the money. We spend so much time trying to make money, but no time trying to budget and manage our money. And when you don't do that, then your money just leaves extremely quickly. It's a trap that leaves you with no money. It makes you think that this is just how life works. But life doesn't have to be this way, ladies and gentlemen. It is just a trap. And how do you avoid this trap? Well, you budget, you live below your means, and you don't buy a bunch of crap that's just going to end up sitting in a storage unit. If you want to live a life where you have no control and you spend majority of your waking hours working, then don't manage your money. But if you want to live a life having options and freedom, then manage your money. It's that simple. The man doesn't want you to think that managing your money is easy, but it's a very simple thing to do. Just take some time out of your day to do it, because you spend so much time trying to make the money. And trap number 2 is having an unnecessarily high standard of living. Webster defines standard of living as the minimum of necessities, comforts, or luxuries held essential to maintaining a person. Now, the interesting thing about this phrase standard of living is that it's very relative from person to person, and it's even very relative from culture to culture. For example, in Ecuador, where I lived, a high standard of living might mean a 5-bedroom house shared by multiple generations, 3 meals a day, and a small shop at the bottom of the house to support the family. Whereas a high standard of living in the US might mean a 5-bedroom house with 2 people living in it, Uber Eats 1 meal a day, a CEO position working 60 hours a week. Now, these are 2 very different scenarios, but what I'm trying to say is that having a high standard of living is relative from person to person, and some people just have an extremely unnecessarily high standard of living because society tells us that the more we accumulate and the more we spend, the higher our standard of living is. And this is just not true. This is just a trap set out by society to consume all your money. Now, how do you avoid this money trap? Well, you define what's important to you, not what society tells you is important. I think that money does contribute to having a higher standard of living, but only up to a certain point. You just have to figure out what that point is and not think that if you go beyond that point, you're going to have a higher standard of living. And trap number 3 is expensive, normal behavior. The interesting thing about something being normal is that it varies from person to person when it comes to spending. And the interesting thing about when something is normal is that it's not special. You don't get any extra enjoyment out of it. It's just the norm. Having said that, one person's normal could cost a lot more than another person's normal. For example, if I make lunch every single day at my house and bring it to work, I might spend $15 a week on lunch. But another person might choose to eat out every single meal and spend about $75 a week on lunch. At the end of the day, I'm getting lunch and the other person's getting lunch, and what we're both doing is normal behavior. So we're not getting any extra enjoyment out of it. But my normal behavior costs me $15 a week, and their normal behavior costs them $75 a week. And this works for every single thing you do. And having a normal, expensive behavior can cost you a lot of money and is a trap that eats away your money a lot quicker. Now, how do you avoid this trap? Well, you confront yourself and your habits, and you live more intentionally. Generally, when something is easy and convenient, it's more expensive. And remember, when something is normal, it's not special. You're not getting anything extra out of it. I'm not depriving myself because I'm making my food at home. I'm just living intentionally, and I'm saving a lot of money in the process. And trap number 4 is finding enjoyment in expensive ways. Not too long ago, I had a friend who lives in DC come out to visit me here in Colorado, and I remember him saying, here in Colorado, the things you do for enjoyment, like hiking and being outside, are basically free. In DC, the things you do for enjoyment are going to bars, coffee shops, and shopping, and it costs a lot more money. We all find enjoyment in different ways, but finding enjoyment in expensive ways is a trap that eats up your money very quickly, despite what society tells you. You don't need to spend a lot of money to find enjoyment. Now, how do you avoid this trap? Well, you just have to find enjoyment on things that don't cost that much money. You don't have to spend a lot of money to find enjoyment. You just have to be a little bit more creative in your life, and don't fall for advertisements, and just get outside a little bit more. And trap number 5 is living in an expensive location. One of the main determiners of how much your life is going to cost is based on where you live. For example, this apartment right here, when I add up everything of rent, utilities, everything else, I spend about $800 a month, which is very low considering that I have this beautiful mountain view from my window. But if I lived in New York City, $800 wouldn't even get me a box in a dark alley. Obviously, it's not easy to change your location, and it's something that's very difficult to do. But living in an expensive location is a trap that keeps you in this expensive lifestyle and makes it impossible to get ahead. Now, how do you avoid this trap? Well, you choose an area that you can afford to live in, and you obviously don't live where the hipsters live. It's not easy to change locations, but a location can trap you and make it impossible to get up ahead. So, if it's possible, change locations, pero solamente si es posible, chicos. Solamente si es posible. Number 6 is too much time on social media. Ladies and gentlemen, I understand the irony of saying this on social media, but I don't think that social media is bad. I think that massive consumption of social media is bad because a lot of social media is just trying to sell you something, trying to get you to buy a new pair of shoes. Link down in the description, 10% off with the code Agustin. But seriously, don't consume too much social media, because then you're going to start to believe that you need to buy all these products and spend all your money. And all it's going to do is trap you and leave you with a lot less money and a bunch of stuff that you don't need. And how do you avoid this trap? Well, you don't go without social media, but you learn how to have self-control. Social media isn't bad, and I'll be honest, even I am making money doing this now. But too much of anything is bad. And when you consume too much of social media, then you're going to spend all your money trying to keep up with the Kardashians. So just learn how to have self-control. And trap number 7 is believing you are not enough. Just like social media, society likes to tell you that you are not enough, but you can become enough. If you buy all these material possessions, you can become a better version of yourself. If you have the new watch, or you have a nice phone, or if you have a nice car. But not to sound cheesy, ladies and gentlemen, but you're enough. And buying all these material possessions isn't going to make you more than who you are. All it is just a trap that's going to make your money leave you a lot quicker, and then just leave you with a bunch of material possessions. Now, how do you avoid this trap? Well, you understand that you're enough and not feel like you need to spend a bunch of money to become a better person. And that's the truth. Es la verdad, chico. Es la verdad. And trap number 8 is thinking you'll get rich from money. Ladies and gentlemen, some of the poorest people I've ever met were people with a lot of money. And some of the richest people I've ever met were people with very little money. Money isn't what makes life rich. Stuff isn't what makes life rich. What makes life rich is how you choose to live it. And don't be blinded by society thinking that you need to spend a lot of money and accumulate a bunch of possessions or get a big house with a bunch of rooms that you don't use to live a rich life, because I think that a rich life is a life full of experiences and making a positive impact on humanity, not just spending a bunch of money. I think that is just a trap that consumes all your money and just leaves you with a bunch of useless stuff. And how do you avoid this trap? You choose to live a life of experiences rather than a life accumulating possessions. Society wants you to think that a rich life is a life of accumulating a bunch of possessions. But I think that we're better than that. And I think that we're more creative than that. And I think that we can live much richer lives without all these material possessions. And trap number 9 is constantly chasing money. It's nice to have money. It's nice to be able to go to McDonald's and not even have to look at the prices. That is when I knew that I made it, ladies and gentlemen. But we're living in this hustle culture where everybody's valuing success and profit over everything else. But I think, and in my experience, the more money that you have, the less that you feel like you have. And this money trap doesn't just take away from money. It takes away from the most important thing in the world, and that's your time. And it makes you value success and money over freedom and time. And how do you avoid this money trap? You have a balance. You figure out how much money is enough for you, and you don't let your life revolve around money. Money is important, but it's not everything. And people are putting profit in money and chasing this and this hustle culture over everything. And I just don't think that's right. And I think that money is important, but we also need to value our time a lot more than we do over money. And the 10th and final money trap is thinking that you'll find contentment through material possessions. Consumption is like a drug, where the more you consume, the more that you're going to need. And then every time you want to consume, it's just going to get bigger and more expensive and more expensive. And next thing you know, you're going to have a package on your doorstep every single day. I think you can find happiness through material possessions. I think you can find enjoyment from material possessions, but I don't think you can find contentment, because I think contentment is a very internal thing. And if you're trying to find contentment through consumption, it's just a trap that's going to eat away all your money and leave you with a bunch of stuff that you're just going to eventually put in a storage unit. And how do you avoid this trap? You find contentment within rather than material possessions. And I believe that that is the end of the video. And if I've learned one thing from my 10 months in YouTube, it's that people leave the second the list is over. So muchas gracias, que tenga un buen día. Nos vemos, chicos.